right, today we got the big bending lesson. We're going to do a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced lesson all in one in about hopefully 20 minutes or so. Let's get to it. Okay, the beginner lesson. The beginner lesson is how to do bends, how to do the thing. So in this lesson, we're going to just build up strength and dexterity, but let's make it easy on ourselves. So if you want, you can tune your guitar down. If you tune to E, try tuning to E flat or even down to D. If you tune down anyway, but you have heavy strings, still try tuning down. If you want, and you can afford to go and buy a lighter set of strings for a little while. So if you normally play 10s, buy a set of 9s. Now if you have a floating trem, this does not, but if you have a floating trem, that will mess up with your setup. So the floating trem will start to pull back, and that can change things around. So if you don't want to do that, then you can always just do it normally like I do. I'm tuned down to E flat. Okay, so the technique here is it's a combination of a twist at the wrist like this while pushing with the fingers, and that gives you a lot of strength. And so the way it actually works is it'll look a little different than that. It's not quite as, this is extremely exaggerated. So what we'll do is you're going to take your pointer finger and you're going to put it at the bottom of the neck over here. Then you're going to take your thumb and you're going to put it at the top of the neck, kind of like this. If you have big hands, your thumb might hang over. If you have smaller hands, it might be at the top. Smaller still, it'll just be at the back, but at the top here. Okay. And what you're going to want to do is you want to get a grip on that, but you don't want to choke it, and you don't want to strangle it. You're not trying to hurt anything. All you're really trying to do is hold the neck in place with your thumb here, so that when you push on the strings, you're not just pushing the neck out of the way. So all that's really doing is just holding the neck still, so that when you push everything, it counteracts that and keeps the neck straight, or in position anyway. And you're going to use the tips of your fingers. So that would be the tips of your fingers. You can see the lines on there. Okay, not the pads of your fingers. If you use the pads, the string will just slip off. So you'll get that sort of a thing. It'll just slip through. Okay, and then when you bend the strings, you're going to bend them together. So like this. You see how all the strings are being bent together here? That is as opposed to, if I can get it to work, going underneath the strings. You don't want to do that, because that's just going to hurt your fingernails and your cuticles, and I don't know that those callus over all that well. So that will be painful. So you want to bend them all at the same time. You just hit one string. So we're going to use all the fingers that we have available. So if you're in this position, you have 4 fingers, and that's a lot. That's the most you're ever going to have. And you're going to use all 4 to bend. Now if we're in like a standard home position where we've got 1 finger on each fret, okay, that's 1 finger on each fret here. What you're going to do is, instead of having your fingers all spread out like this, which is kind of weird, I mean, there's times when you might actually do it that way, but you're going to take all your fingers and just kind of squish them together. So spread out, squish together, and then all together, that gives you a nice bit of leverage. Okay, so if you have 3 fingers, then just get your 3 fingers together. If you're on this note where you have 2 fingers, get the 2 fingers together. You have the 1 finger, can still be done. That one hurts though. People don't learn how to bend with their pinkies, but I don't know why not, because it gives you a lot of options. Because pinky is a usable finger. Okay, and then you're going to bend towards the middle of the neck, whichever way you're going. If you're going this way, you bend, so the skinny strings or the unwound strings, you bend up towards the middle of the neck. The wound strings, you're going to bend down towards the middle of the neck. The two strings in the middle here, they can kind of go either way. So you can take the G string and you can go, and same thing with the D string. And then when we bend on these low strings, so most of the time we're going to be bending on the high string, the unwound strings. But when we get down to the low strings here, instead of being a push motion, it's kind of a pull motion. More like, I think of it like a claw. You're clawing it. So you're not really going to claw like this. You're just going to claw like pulling things down. So it's a pull and a twist for these. Now the last part of it is how you actually do the bends, or what we're actually going to bend to, and that is we're going to do full note bends, or whole note bends, full bends. And what that means, it's a whole note is 2 half steps, and a half step is 1 fret. So a whole note would be 2 frets up. So if we're going to bend this note, what are we going to bend it to? We're going to go up 2 frets. So 1, 2. So that's our target note, and bending up to that. If we do this note, up 2 frets. Just going to keep checking our target note. Go this note, go up 2 frets. All right. So it doesn't matter where you are. For this exercise, you're really just going to bend. We're going to do the whole note bend. So even on the low strings. And you'll hear it when you go a little sharp, or if you're a little flat, just correct for it. Okay, so if we get all of that done, we can go on to the exercise, which is really just a lot of bending. So the beginner exercise is, all we're going to do is just do whole note bends, but we're going to do them for every finger, on every fret, on every string. Now you can do this in scales if you want. It doesn't really matter, but you can do it just like this little chromatic thing. So if we actually did the bends on it, and it's going to be annoying and it's going to be painful. And so one of the things you can do is, if you're watching TV at night, you can have the guitar there and you can just practice the notes without using an amp. Or you can just do the bends without plucking them. Because what you're going to do is, we're really working on, the priority here is the strength and dexterity. So getting these bends is higher priority than actually hitting the notes for the beginner part of it. But you still are going to start building a little bit of muscle memory, so you still want to check your target note every now and again. So maybe in the commercials or something like that. Well, if we did it without the amp. And you can do that for all of them. You do this for a little while, and your hand strength and a little dexterity will start to build up on there. Now, when people aren't around, or you have the opportunity to have headphones or whatever it is, what you'll do is you'll check the notes and bend to them. And you'll keep doing that, and eventually you're gonna build up some strength to it. You're gonna get used to it. As long as you keep checking the source note, you're going to build, as you build muscle memory, you're going to be building muscle memory to the actual note that you're trying to go to. Because you should be able to, at some point. Wait, where was I? Should be able to do bends without looking. The intermediate lesson is the techniques. Technique is intermediate, intermediate is technique, and it's just going to be the different kinds of bends. So you've already been practicing the standard bend, and then there's the bend and release. That's where you bend and then unbend, or faster. Then there's the ghost bend. The ghost bend is when you start already bent. And oftentimes the ghost bend comes with a release, or even faster. You can do slow bends and releases. What I call the stair-step bends. You can do partial bends and releases, which is kind of nice. You can do over bends. It's a regular bend. You heard the over bend in there. And then there's these two-note bends. So the two-note bend would be something like a double stop bend. So you got double stops. That's where you're just hitting two notes, like the 3rd string 5th fret, 2nd string 5th fret. You can go up here to 7th fret. Now that one I was bending down, because bending up, you get less grip on it. That clawing motion, the pulling, actually helps with that. You can do unison bends, and think like Hendrix for this one. So a unison bend is you're going to take two notes and you're going to bend one note up to the other note. So we'll start with 5th fret, 2nd string, 3rd string, 7th fret. If we play them together, get that nice tension in there. What we're going to do is we're going to bend until that tension goes away. Now you can move those around too, which is kind of fun. You can also, it's nice to do those partial releases in there as well and kind of play with that tension. You can also do those on the top two strings. So if you did the 5th string on, or 5th fret on the 1st string and the 8th fret on the 2nd string, get that tension again. So those are really nice, use those a lot. So the next one is oblique bends, and it's almost like the opposite of the unison bends. So what it sounds like is this. And it's almost like you're taking the kind of a relatively relaxed tension and making it worse. Now, I don't use these a lot, and here's how you actually do it. So we'll pick the 2nd string at the 8th fret, 3rd string at the 7th fret, play them together, and then we're going to bend just the 3rd string. Now, where I do use those is sometimes I'll do like a little lick, kind of a bluesy thing, and I'll pull that in at the end of it just to create some tension. So. So what I do there is I'm doing a bend, and then I'm going to grab, so this is the 3rd string, 7th fret bend, and then I'm going to just pluck the 2nd string at the 8th fret here. So just so I can get that release on there, which is kind of a nice. You can do it, probably. See, it sounds different than the unison bends. And then the last one we'll talk about here are what I call dirty bends. And that goes back to the earlier instruction. Remember, we said we're going to bend all the strings together, but try not to go underneath the strings. Well, what's going to happen is your finger is going to capture the next string above it here. So I've got this note going, but I'm going to capture this string as well, and we're going to get some nice tension out of it. So it'll sound kind of like this. And it gives you that tension you can play with in your solos to add a lot of drama to it. Now, because you're really just doing the normal bend and you're kind of adding that 2nd string in there, you can kind of bounce back and forth between them. So you can hit the clean note, and then you can hit the note or the string above it and get the little dirty note going as well. So you always have the ability to clean it up and get that clean note, or to make it dirty. And so those are all the different bends, and next up is the exercise. Okay, the intermediate exercise is really just to learn all of those bends and then figure out how to do them at every little position. Remember the beginner exercise, we were doing that chromatic thing? But it'll be things like, okay, instead of just doing, you might be doing, and then do at the next fret. Just kind of rotate through them. And when you get to things like the double stop bends, you're going to find that they don't always work everywhere, especially the unison bends really only work on the skinny strings or this second and third string. Because once you get up here, you can do it, but it is tough. And it doesn't really sound all that great. So for the single note bends, you can try all of those. Again, the first finger here is going to be a tough one for you. You don't really have to practice it that much, except for on the wound strings. So on the skinny strings, it's just harder to push than it is to do that clawing, pulling motion. But that's really it. So the intermediate lesson, learn all the different bends, figure out how to do all of them with every finger, on every fret, on every string, with the exception ones that are just too hard, like the... You can build up the strength to do that, but it'll come at a cost. It will hurt. But eventually, you're going to have all of these bends on here. You're going to be pretty close to accurate on all of them. If you have trouble, you can go back to the beginner exercise where you just do that, or even you just practice it every time. So I'm going to practice the ghost bends. So that you're accurate when you're hitting those things a lot. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that, but that is the general exercise, is going through all of them over and over and over again. Because at this point, once you've started doing the beginner lesson and now you're moving into the intermediate lesson, you really are going to start building up muscle memory. So you want to make sure that you're accurate on whatever it is that you're doing. So don't slack off, and let's go on to the advanced lesson, which is style. The advanced lesson is style. This is where everything comes together. So if you think of the bends and all the things we've been doing so far, bends and phrases and whatever, as words, we're now going to put the words into sentences. Now the sentences are going to be kind of dopey because the exercise is designed to limit you so that you are forced to go through your vocabulary of different licks and things. So the way it works, so what the exercise is going to do is you pick one note, and only one note, and then you have to come up with something that is sort of meaningful. Now, normally you do this to music. I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I don't have any music for this, and I'm not going to write a song and all that kind of stuff for this sort of thing. But what you'll get, what you're going to do is you pick the one note, and you only have the one note. So if we get this note, we can only do bends and whatever it is on that one note. So you can do different picking techniques and things like that, but you only get the one note to bend with. And I'll show you, it'll be something like this. So what you're going to try to do is come up with, throw all the different things you can together in different orders and kind of string them together. In other words, you're in this bend. Where can I go from there? I can go to do a slow release. I can do hammer-ons, or you can't do that, you only have one note. I can do stair steps, coming back up. I can do little partial releases and bends. You can do pauses. But it really does force you to think through, like, okay, I've just done this lick, I've done this second lick, I've done this third lick. Where do I go from there? Can I do a fourth lick? Can I do this? And so it might sound something like this. This won't be great, and it won't be super long, but you get the kind of the idea of. But it's a really good technique to figure out If you've done a bunch of fast runs, you've done some really crazy stuff. But then you throw in these bends and it just grabs the audience by the throat and just doesn't let go until you move on. So hopefully, now you have a roadmap for improvement. So if you're a beginner, you know to start working on building up the hand strength and calluses and dexterity. If you are intermediate, you've got a bunch of different bends to learn and learn how to do those in different positions. If you're advanced, you've got a little technique there to help you figure out how to string together patterns for your bending and stuff like that. And you also have ways to annoy your friends and neighbors. But don't limit yourself. So if you're a beginner and you're doing all these little bends, that's going to get boring after a while. So try some of the intermediate other bends, the bends and releases, the ghost bends and things. Throw some of those in there and it'll help you with your strength and dexterity, but it'll also spice it up a little bit, make it a little more interesting. If you're advanced, then start doing the stringing the licks together. So you can do things like but you can pull those into different things. Right, so you can mix it up a little bit in there so that you're never just one thing. You're never just a beginner. You're never just an intermediate. You're always working towards advanced, which is style. You're always working towards building that style. So just start working on the style part of it, even while you're learning the other parts of it. There's no graduation ceremony. There's no one pointing to you saying, "Oh, you're a beginner. You're an intermediate. You only do intermediate stuff. You're advanced, you can do other things." There's none of that stuff. So it's all kind of a gray area and you kind of decide for yourself where you are. So if you start doing the bends and you're not hitting the notes, then go back to the beginner thing and do the silently while you're watching television. Okay, and if you are advanced and you're not hitting those, then go back to doing the advanced lesson where you're going through all the different bends that there are. And mostly just be creative and have fun, and hopefully as you release yourself, once you stop doing the exercise and you start doing real solos, that it will release you and you can go through and experiment and have a good time and pull cool little licks. Just have fun and explore things, and hopefully if you learn some new bends in there, or you learn different ways of doing bends. I'm not going to limit you to what you can do because I can't anyway, it's just a video. But have a good time with it, and tune in next time when maybe we'll do a vibrato lesson.